All right, folks, Mo Foster here, and I am your host and facilitator for the Citywide Design Challenge, Build Citywide Design Challenge, the Thriving Communities Challenge. Remember, that is housed on builduniversity.org, our dynamic digital platform for the Design Challenge. Today is session 6. 6 out of 8 sessions. We only have 2 sessions left, folks. Today is session 6, clustering and narrowing ideas. The objectives for today are to understand how to cluster and narrow as part of the ideate stage, and demonstrate mashup ideation as a tool for narrowing ideas. Today's agenda: as always, there's a warm-up offering, and this warm-up is a part 2 to last session's warm-up. We have our reminders of the overarching design question and the steps to human-centered design, tips on clustering and narrowing ideas, a demo of mashup ideation, and then a very special interview with a very special young person, Mariani Solis. All right. So today's warm-up, if you were here in the last session or you watched the last session, you'll know that Pat is not from around here and is trying to get to know us through our individual stories about our communities. So it's Pat again. Pat is heading home and has very limited room on their ship, but wants to bring home an artifact that represents your community. What are you sending Pat home with? Well, as you can see, I slapped an Oakland A's sticker on Pat's spaceship because the Oakland A's are the most loyal sports team that we have here in Oakland. And I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon, even though there's talk, but whatever. I gave Pat an Oakland A's sticker for their spaceship. So I want you to think about what you would give Pat. There's limited room, but what could Pat take home that represents your community? A reminder of our design question: how might we build powerful, thriving communities where everyone enjoys safety, wellness, and economic freedom? Little quote for you this time. I love this quote because it reminds me of what we're going to do today. But innovation is taking 2 things that exist and putting them together in a new way. That's coming from Tom Freston, co-founder of MTV, who took music and television, put them together, and created an entire lifestyle. All right. Remember, we are following the human-centered design protocol, human-centered design. All right. And we are on Ideate. In Empathize, we collected insights on our clients and define. We clustered those insights and then created a POV statement, right, where we outlined our client's problem. In Ideate, last time, we generated a bunch of ideas, and now we're going to cluster and narrow those ideas, all right? And remember, you generated those ideas based on your POV statement. Ideate. In the ideate stage, just a reminder, you will gather with open minds in a judgment-free setting to produce as many ideas as you can to address a problem statement, okay? So that was that storm of ideas that we had last time. And if you're sitting there and you're like, well, we didn't come up with that many ideas, guess what? I've got a tool for you today that could help you come up with more ideas. And if you come up with lots of ideas, it's also a tool that could help you narrow. And we'll talk about both ways in which you can use that. All right, so remember, in Ideate part 1, we generate. And that's the process of creating and developing and communicating about a multitude of ideas, right? In part 2, we talked about clustering, and we also talked about how we've seen this slide before because cluster is also a part of define, right? Where we took all of our insights, clustered them, and looked for similar themes and similarities, recurring themes, right? So today we're going to talk a little bit about mashup ideation and how we can use this, particularly after you see a demo of clustering. Okay, so mashup ideation is a technique for brainstorming. So if you're saying that, well, we haven't come up with a lot of ideas, you can also use this method to brainstorm. This method is about bringing odd or unexpected things together to spark fresh ideas. And they might not even be that odd or unexpected, but two things that you once had in separate buckets, combining those things and seeing where it goes from there. So for instance, a toothbrush and a cell phone. That's today's example, a toothbrush and a cell phone. So I'll show you how we might mash up using a toothbrush and a cell phone. All right. So first we want to know what the elements of each are. What do you think about when you think about a toothbrush, right? And so you would write all those things down. Here are a few. Cleanliness, oral health, presentation, fresh breath, and a nice smile, right? And then here are some things you might think about when you think about a cell phone: communication, pastime, information, safety, connection. And you take all of those elements, and then you might combine those things and come up with a flight of ideas combining these. And they could sound silly, but they could be brilliant. So for instance, here we have a smart brush, a toothbrush and an app that go together, right? Maybe it helps you with your oral health. It helps you stay on point, gives you points. Maybe there's a leaderboard, who knows? Toothbrush cell phone case for those on the go. I can see it. All right. Toothbrushing game for iOS and Android. It's just a game. You just do like this and you brush teeth. I mean, it sounds silly, but I've seen a lot of games like that on iOS and Android. Really, they're just about keeping your fingers moving and feeling like you're accomplishing something, right? Slim toothbrush that can fit into a cell phone case or pouch pocket, right? That's just about a slim design. Like, how slim can we make the toothbrush so that we always have one on us? And then an app that uses the front camera to determine if your teeth whitener is working, right? So these are all kinds of ideas that just might come up if you're thinking about mashing up these two like completely different objects. Another thing that you might do, and this is what I like to do if I'm ideating, sometimes I just come up with the name of something. And then from there, I'm like, well, if it was called that, what would it be? So healthy communication is what I think of when I see the toothbrush and the cell phone, or cell brush or smile cam, right? And then those might lend themselves to some of the ideas over here, all right? So if you were to use mashup ideation and come up with all kinds of ideas and start mashing up all kinds of things and filling up your jam board or filling up your poster boards, right? The next part after we cluster, that's when we find ideas that are similar, and we put them all in buckets and then label them. And you'll see a whole demo on that in just a second. But in the narrowing process, when you talk about narrowing, because after you cluster and have a great time, you will have to eventually choose and decide on an idea that becomes your solution to the POV. Right? In the narrowing process, we'll evaluate every idea based on how well it meets the demands of the POV statement, which is why the POV was so important, and we edited it and we did everything we could to make sure that it was something that made us want to come up with a whole bunch of and generate a whole bunch of ideas. Once you have narrowed down to 2 to 4 ideas that fit the narrowing criteria, you can take a vote from your team on which idea you will prototype, because prototype is the next step. And that is when we create a model. And we'll talk all about that in the next session, right? Here's some tips for narrowing down ideas, okay? 1, keep the client and POV at the center. And by at the center, sometimes I mean like literally, you might put it in the middle of the Jamboard or in the middle of the poster. And one way you can narrow ideas is the ones that seem like less and less likely to answer, the problem outlined in the POV. You'll move those further out from where the POV is, so you have a visual of which ones are closer to meeting those needs. For every idea, ask, would this solve my client's problem? And I mean, ask it out loud. Right? And so somebody's holding up an idea, they're very passionate about it, and you just keep asking, will this solve my client's problem? Right? Then you might be looking at ideas and you say, what can we imagine ourselves prototyping? Making a model of. Can we imagine ourselves making a model of this idea? Which idea would bring the best out of the team you have, right? What will allow you to use all of your strengths? That one is a winner because then your team will get to work on it, right? They'll be passionate about it. And that passion will translate to a really great solution for your client. And then again, I'm just going to keep bringing it back to it because this is what it's about. Which idea best solves the problem outlined in the POV statement? You'll keep bringing it back to that. And even if it's a few of them, that's when you're going to go ahead and vote. Don't take my word for it because my companion here, Mo the Builder, always has a little bit of advice.
Hey there, Mo the Builder here to show you how to cluster in the Ideate stage, as well as how to use Mashup Ideation to help you narrow down and come up with truly innovative ideas. Now, as discussed in the Define stage, when we cluster, we are looking for similar themes and ideas. As you'll see here on this board, we've done some clustering and we put together things like meditation and counseling and making a vision board in one area because they seem similar. We also put hologram testing and all the things having to do with simulations in another. The next step after you cluster is to label. That way you know what this group represents. For instance, where it says cheat or get somebody to take the test for him, we call that fraud. After you've labeled your groups appropriately, you might choose 2 random groups and start to mash up some of the ideas. In this case, we've mashed up a few of the ideas from the social, emotional, mental health bucket with some of the ideas from the test-taking methods bucket. After putting those together, we've come up with a new idea, a meditative retreat where he can practice for the test in a remote area, camp, and have group therapy with others having the same issue. Our next example will come from the 2 other buckets, mentoring and simulations. After pulling together a few ideas from those buckets, we've come up with another innovative idea, a digital platform for teachers, students, and boating enthusiasts that has VR games and simulators and allows you to communicate with other players and get real-world advice while playing and learning. Whatever you do during this phase, you want to make sure that you are honoring all voices in your group and that you're using your imagination, because that's how you're going to get innovative ideas. After you come up with a few ideas that you really like, then you can vote on them as a group to see which one really sticks. And remember, make sure that you're testing it against the POV statement to make sure it really solves the problem. Hey you, yeah you with me? Let's build.
Well, as I say, Mo the Builder always has my back, and I'm hoping that that demo helps you understand what you do in the clustering process, how you could use mashup ideation to help those ideas evolve, and possibly make sure that we're using all of the voices in the room to create a really great solution for your client. Okay, these are pages 9 and 10 of your design book. So we talked about what needs to happen on 9, and you're going to use 9 to inform what happens on 10. And just in case you didn't know which ones I was talking about, here they are. All right, because these are your to-dos. You're going to go to builduniversity.org. Again, like I said, you're going to open up your student design book. You are going to cluster and narrow your ideas from slide 9 in your design book. You might do that on a Jamboard. You might do that in real life with sticky notes, but you're going to do this with your group. And then you're going to fill in your top 3 ideas on slide 10 that I just showed you, vote, and then record your solution. And this is really important. What excites you about it? Okay, you need buy-in for this. You're going to need to be pretty passionate about what you're going to build for your client, right? In order for it to really pop. Okay. Well, we have Mariani Solis as our guest.
Hi, my name is Mariani. I'm currently zooming in from New York City. I live in Brooklyn.
Awesome. Yeah. And you are a senior in high school, correct?
Yes, I'm a senior in the design high.
Right. So we were talking a little bit about your school before the facilitation, and we were talking about some things that you feel like kind of make it a cool community, right? We were talking about the closeness. What are those elements that make your school feel like a community you can be proud of?
Well, there's a lot of things that I love about my school. In particular, we call our teachers and administrators by their first names. And I felt like, and that's what I was telling you, that it builds such a sense of community because it isn't just teacher student, it's like we see each other as people. And that just kind of helps us empathize with one another. And it really goes both ways. We build a lot of trust like that. Um, my school also holds circles, which is for each class is a different day. So, so basically, we hold a circle where we all sit in a circle, and there's one administrator or teacher that leads it, and we talk about pressing social or any issues that are going on in the world currently. And also, we talk about us as teenagers and our experiences throughout the weeks, because sometimes it's not that easy to talk about things, but even just hearing someone else say it, it kind of helps you empathize. And it's like, oh, wow, so we're all going through the same things. And everybody's there for you. And we have this saying that says, whatever says said in circles stays in circles. So there's never been an occasion where it's like your private or like your internal dilemmas that you go through are ever shared around. Like, of course not. That's like a really basic, like, it's a really crucial thing in our school. And I've only seen in my school. That's why I was like, I was really interested and like, I love it. Um, and I think it's just, we have a lot of programs. Like, my school is technically a design school, so it offers fashion, it offers portfolio development, and we have build also, which was a crucial part of my life all the way through up till now too, because even now I'm meeting so many great people and I'm seeing so many different perspectives, which is something that I really, really enjoy.
Awesome. If there was one thing um, that from your school that you could say, so say you're a leader now in the whole United States, and you're saying this one thing that I had in high school, it needs to happen everywhere in every school from now on, what would it be?
I think definitely it was called coaching. So it was one teacher took us out of a class. It was during like a period of like one of our design classes, I believe. And that teacher or that administrator had four students there, and it was so much of a closer kind of environment. So it's much quick to judge or like to not really interact with the other students around you. Like, even though you go to class every day with them, you don't know them. But when it was just us five, I think it built such friendships because you feel comfortable. And that's really where I became a little bit more social, because I was always an extrovert, but I was never great with my words. And that's something that I've had to learn over the years. And I think every school should kind of prioritize just giving students one on one or even like a one on four kind of attention.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I would say it works. You're definitely good with your words now. So let's see. I like that. So what I'm hearing is that like there need to be some sort of opportunities for smaller group work and smaller circles being facilitated by adults, so that
Mhm.
people can get to know each other in smaller communities within the larger community. Right. Wow. I love it. Okay. All right, let's talk about wellness. All right. And I say this because when I was young, when I was your age, there was no conversation about wellness. Right. So what does wellness mean to you when you hear wellness? What do you think about? What comes up?
Well, recently, over the past couple years and pandemic happening, wellness to me now is peace of mind, peace of health, and just it's a type of serenity that you really feel with yourself and like with the environment that you're around, that you just feel like it doesn't have to be perfect now, but you feel like you have enough strength to keep going. Wellness to me, like as I implement it in my everyday life, is taking a step back and looking at my actions and the things I'm doing and seeing, oh, if I'm overwhelmed, then maybe I should take a step back and focus on certain things at a time or prioritize so I don't become overwhelmed and anxious. Because that's never a really good feeling to have.
Wow. Everyone's so far ahead. I'm so jealous. I want to go back in time. I want to back to the future, so I can learn these things so early. Okay. And when you talk about wellness and you talk about like feeling good in your environment, what are things that like in your environment that can promote wellness or that can make sure that folks have that feeling that you're talking about?
Okay. In every environment, it is different. In schools, it's definitely honesty and communication. I remember this year, actually, in my math class, the teacher said, just communicate with me. We are all human beings, and if you're having a bad day, you're having a bad day, and I can understand that. And it just inspires me because I was never really fond of math, but it makes me want to try and to be there because I'm seeing somebody put their dedication into my education, and as all teachers do, but now it seemed like so personal, you know? Um, I need that in school. I need communication. I need honesty because I'm willing to give it back. In my friendships, I need I need security and I also need compassion because my friends are usually the ones I confide in the most because they're my age, so I feel like they can empathize with me the most. So that's what I need in order to feel wellness. And in my house, I definitely need communication. And also, I need, how do I say it? I need motivation because my parents, they motivate me and like they inspire me. So when like I'm having a really tough day, I just know that I can come home and say I'm struggling and my parents are going to, in a way, kind of guide me. And that's really going to make me feel at peace.
Nice. Thank you. I'm going to switch gears a little bit because, we've got such great insight. So now I'm curious. What do you think about, or what comes to mind, or what do you envision when we talk about financial freedom?
When we discuss financial freedom, I definitely think that I'm going to give a little analogy. So let's say you go into a store and you see something you really like and you're like, oh, I need this and I want this. But it's a bit on the pricier side. Financial freedom lets me know that, oh, you won't have to sacrifice something else to get that thing. And I felt it a lot over the past 2 years because I am adulting now that I am a senior. So it comes to a point where like I'm not as financially free as I would like to be. So I definitely have to put certain things on hold and other things I have to prioritize. So to me, financial freedom is like I don't have to do that. Still be careful with money, but it's not like I have to put my necessities on hold to chase another necessity. Like that seems like financially struggling.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay. What do you think makes young people feel empowered? I ask, and I'm going to let you know, I ask for very personal reasons. I have a 14-year-old who is a freshman in high school, and we talk about, young people feeling empowered. And I feel like sometimes as an adult, I'm not sure if I'm taking her power away with some of the things that I do. So what is it that makes young people feel empowered?
I'm not speaking just for myself, but I know a lot of my other friends and other classmates, they like to be treated as adults. Like 14, 15, 16, you come into high school, you think you're an adult, and yeah, you think that you can do certain things. And of course, you can't because there's limits, but communication and just directness, because we're not children anymore, and like we would like to have some power. So when you give us the ability to make decisions, that's when it's we feel super super empowered. I know that for me and some of my other girl classmates, and they I know specifically with the media, everybody feels very, how do I say, they feel not so empowered by self-image, because the media does put a lot of like harsh expectations on us, on everyone in my class. But it's just when you have from your loved ones and they tell you like you are great and you are doing the best you can, and you are incredibly beautiful and amazing and intelligent, kind of solidifies that belief, and it really structures your self-image and your your image of yourself. I feel like it's very hard seeing it in the media, because it is a lot of women and a lot of even young men that are being like their hopes are being torn down because they see this idea of who you have to be. But we're in our teenage years. This is where we build our personalities. This is where we define ourselves in a way. And seeing all that, it's just it messes with the way you view yourself. So the adults around you, when they tell you these things about you, and I even know that for me, I had a very big struggle with my identity because I'm Dominican. So until I had a Dominican teacher in 10th grade, and she kind of let me know, oh, you have African roots, or oh, your hair can curl. And she introduced me to books by Dominican authors. I was like, wow, I was blind for most of my life. That's not a good feeling to have. We feel empowered when we're given information, when we're left to digest it and to kind of come back and discuss it with your peers, with your family. So definitely just how to empower somebody intellectually, show them the reality, no matter how harsh it is. It's better to know than to not. And reassure them of the power they hold, because many people and most people in society think that age is such a barrier. But in reality, age is not a barrier. We've seen outstanding people do outstanding things. They're just teenagers.
You got my vote. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I like all of those things. Tell me, what's your generation going to do different? Every generation comes in and they change something about society. I've been teaching for 20 something years, and I've watched like multiple groups of individuals change even how we have to teach, right? Or how we converse with kids, or how we interact with young people. What do you think though? Uh, what is your generation like? Because everybody has a focus. What do you think your generation's focus is going to be on changing?
I want to say um global warming, and I want to say the environment, and they really want to fix the environment. But what I've seen in the classrooms, and I've seen people get enraged, is the inequity. I've seen them get so bothered by the inequity and the social injustices that we see around us. So I see people that it's kind of like a light bulb goes in their head, and you see that they're realizing the world around them, and they're kind of like, how do I take steps, how do I take steps towards that? So I definitely think that my generation is going to fight for this to fight to change the social injustices and the oppression that BIPOC people face in America. I really do think that.
I think so too. Honestly, you know, and I hope so, you know, as well. I don't, we're waiting, we're hoping. Okay. So tell me, do you think that different areas, people who live in different areas have different opportunities for advancement? And like, how does that show up in your life?
100%. So I live in Brooklyn, but I study in the Lower East Side. So it's a bit of a yes, it's a bit of a difference from the people that I see and I surround myself with and the way that schools are. I was reading an article actually on Monday about a school in Brooklyn that they have to go through metal detectors and they have to be searched and the kids can't bring water bottles, and it was this outrageous thing because I was never in a school in Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn, but I was never in a high school in Brooklyn, so I had no idea. And I was like, I don't have to do these things at my school, and I'm so privileged in the sense that I get to go to school and take a water bottle and drink water. And it's that simple thing that many of us take for granted is it's such a privilege. And it's the privilege of security that we have, that it's not, oh, security metal detectors. That's not security. That's that's scaring. That's you're scaring students because we come to school to learn. And we all come to school to learn and we all learn differently. And you kind of scare students when you tell them, oh, you can't bring this, you can't bring that. You have to go through metal detectors. It's just like, why? And it's a different borough. It's not even a different state, it's a different borough, and you could see the difference. So, of course, and also the things we learn. I know that my school, I took AP classes, I took three AP classes. And I know I have a cousin in the Bronx that she goes to a pretty good school and she's taking AP classes. But some of my friends in Brooklyn, they don't take AP classes. They're like, oh no, I never got that opportunity. I wish I did though. And it's like you're not giving them a chance. You're not giving students a chance to academically succeed or financially or succeed in general because you're not offering them these great programs. You're not offering them like you offered me build and other schools build, but they're not getting that type of support, not only just from like certain programs, but also from their administrators, the people that are supposed to implement these things and get the and get them to really succeed in school. You're not giving them things to focus on. You're just limiting them.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that about like way across the country because we have similar situations right here, you know, and I'm in all the way in Oakland, California. So that's how we know it's a problem for. All right, I have one last question for you, and then I'm going to open it up because I know my colleagues who are in here. I know how they are. They've got questions. They're ready. I can feel it. So, but I want to ask you one last question. In your own words, what is an entrepreneurial mindset?
And entrepreneurial mindset is the idea that you can be creative and you can make a plan and succeed off of it. But it's kind of different because you can have an entrepreneurial mindset in any field that you go into. It doesn't just have to be business. You can have that idea on life that you want to profit or you want to build a network of people. So it's kind of just like going beyond your expectations and kind of figuring out how you can help people and how you can also build upon yourself and help yourself become a better human being altogether.
Well, you heard that, y'all. Me and Marianne, we're going on tour. We're going on a speaking tour. Um, It's like a TED Talk, but even better. Okay.
But even
Uh,
better.
thank you so much. Okay, we're gonna open up the floor. Marisol.
Oh, that was so good. Hi, Mariani. It's so great to
Hi.
meet you. I'm the
Hi.
woman that's been emailing you. Yeah, I have a question, and actually, it's a great to kind of actually just play off that last question, Mo. I love, Mariani, that you're talking about, you know, your peers, and that, like, I mean, honestly, I'm hyper aware that your generation is a lot more socially conscious than my generation was, like, by far. And you just being able to see, like, the light bulbs going off in your peers, in their minds, it makes me wonder about, so thinking of this next generation, your generation, and this new generation of entrepreneurs, being that your generation is incredibly socially conscious, what do you see is the new generation of entrepreneurs? So what do you see, how does that differentiate from the past and what we currently have as corporations, and what do you see for your future?
I feel like there will be a lot of diversity in the fields of business. I know myself, I would love to go into law at some point. Um, and also tech is really high up there now, so definitely a lot of people in tech. The way that I see it is, it's not just going to be people in corporations kind of like undermining their employees. It's going to be people that are succeeding and are putting money and putting money into um charities, and they're going to take that business that they have and they're going to profit off of it, but still give back to their communities and still be very much um culturally responsive. I know that there's many things that are out there, that many companies that are really high up there that are very culturally insensitive to some people. And I see definitely my generation is going to be the one that change that, the one that are going to come in and say, no, this is unfair, because you aren't just going to exploit certain types of people for your profit and your financial motive. Like, you're not going to just profit off of people and hurt them and exploit them just for your financial benefit. It's not going to happen. I think my generation is going to be the one that it's going to be like, oh, well, we can still run corporations that are still going to be good for the people, that are still, we can make jobs for the people, and we can make objects, and we can still build things that are going to benefit everyone and not be so socially and culturally exclusive, you know?
Um, you're leaving me speechless here, Maniani, which, as my colleagues know, is difficult to do. So I love your vision. I love your passion and the clarity. You know, the clarity with which you speak is truly truly impressive. And so I'm really grateful that we have your voice in the Build family, and that you're going to share that voice more as a client and be interviewed, and that people all over the country are going to get to hear from you, which is wonderful. I'd like to hear from you, you know, reflecting. I remember being in high school myself, and um, and experimenting with how to mobilize people, and how to improve my community, how to improve like the context around myself. I'm wondering, for you, you know, have you had experiences where you feel like you've been successful at mobilizing change, mobilizing improvements that have helped your community thrive? So let's start with that one, and then I have a follow-up on it as well. But I'm just wondering if you've tried stuff and felt like, yeah, I tried something that worked, to give young people like you real concrete examples of how it might happen.
I am actually a part in my school community. I'm actually part of Student Voice Action. And over the pandemic, we wrote a lot of We wrote a lot of articles and we posted a lot of things and petitions on our school website. But now it's in person and it's so much more fun because now we get to attend protests and rallies and we get to encourage students, and it's like this is what we're fighting for. S- School to prison pipeline, and we're telling them these things and everybody's so aware. So that's one of the ways that I'm really involved. Also, discussion in class and government when we're learning about political and kind of like social s- social figures like Fred Hampton we were learning about today. And everybody in the class is so speechless. And I was like, I always leave that class and I'm like, how did I never know? How is it that I didn't know? How? And it was just like, we need to tell people this. We need to. And just discussion with your classmates, it really opens up people's eyes and creates change, really. In my community, in my neighborhood community and where I live, I think I always attend. I mostly attend church, and I always went to church school for 5 years. I've been really into kind of interning and helping the kids that are learning in church school and being a part of that change. And I show my brother and I teach him about the Bible and I tell him things like that because I think it is important to just be knowledgeable, not just to focus on one religion, but to also just be aware of the things around you. So attending church and seeing my neighbors and saying hello, and like if they ever need something, helping them, opening doors. Those are just basic things that like uplift the people in my community and uplift me when they're done to me. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love the range. I love that range. And those are all things that I think are very accessible, right? Like students have that inspiration and they start doing small things, then they become big things. So I appreciate that perspective. And now I'm going to ask you a tough question before I give up the mic here. Is have you tried anything to help your community thrive or uplift or make change, and it didn't succeed, right? Where you weren't successful or you feel like you haven't been successful yet, but you maybe learned something from it. Um,
Well, yes, that is a tough question. That is a tough question. Yeah, well, there's been certain things that I haven't been able to do. Like let's say in school.
Okay. So let's say in school, I really wanted to work on something, but I couldn't because I had to pick up my brother the next day because I've always wanted to protest. Like I wanted to go on the climate protest in when I was a sophomore, so 2 years ago before COVID. And I wanted to go so bad, but I couldn't because I had to pick up my brother from school. But I still told the teacher and I was like, you guys be there and I'm there with you in spirit. And yeah, and those are just things like that that I haven't been able to do because of certain responsibilities. But I still like I wish them the best of luck, and I really do want to be a part of more things. That's why I sign petitions and I'm involved in ways I can.
I love that. Love that. That reminds me of a term, a concept called competing goods, which is still like I'm still learning every day, right? It's like you're between two really good things, right? So because helping your community and your family thrive is taking care of your brother and helping your mom out and your family out who probably has to work and have other responsibilities, and you're supporting them. And then that larger community, working on that global community and climate action is also a good. And sometimes we have those really tough choices. And so I'm proud of you for facing those head on, and just realizing, okay, this moment I'm going to help my family, but I'm still going to wish them luck, and maybe the next time I'm going to go and find other ways. So that's incredible maturity, and I just appreciate you really modeling that thoughtfulness and the positivity of it, of saying, hey, this is what I need to do for my family, but but I'm still gonna send well wishes. I'm not gonna, dwell in what I can't do. I'm just gonna do what I can in this moment. I think that's incredibly mature, and I appreciate you for sharing that message.
Thank you.
Well, if there aren't any more questions, I just want to really thank you for coming. I'm actually pretty blown away by this interview, so I'm gonna need a moment to ask myself why I'm not in the classroom anymore. Like, where will thank goodness you came through, because it's like, yes, you remind me of all of the brilliance that is out here with young folks, and I'm with adults all day, and they're brilliant too. Don't get me wrong. I'm with brilliant adults all day.
I want to thank you all. I think this was a great discussion. I haven't had one of these in a minute. I really appreciate it.